Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and we are so fortunate to be joined today by two of our very favorite guests here on the Nightly News Podcast, MaryBeth Fisher and Sandy Box. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Sandy is the Director of Development with the Central Penn College Education Foundation. MaryBeth also works in the foundation office and does primarily alumni relations, and she is the Alumni Relations Coordinator. So why we are here today is we are talking about the upcoming Education Foundation Scholarship Essay Contest that opens up August 1st. So it opened up last week, and it will be open through August 30th. We're also being joined here today for a maiden voyage. Well, not necessarily. You did the baseball podcast earlier in the last term, but we are being joined by Tyler Coleman. You are one of the vice presidents of the Nightly News Media Club, and we appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Professor Miller. I'm really looking forward to doing this podcast with you guys.
Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your day. All right, so we have a lot of things to talk about. Not only different alumni events coming up, some events I actually have a hand in myself, but mainly what we're going to talk about here today is the upcoming Education Foundation Scholarship Essay. This is something that's done every winter and summer term, and to fill out your application, you can go to foundation.centralpenn.edu. That's got all the information you need to put in, and where to submit your essay. This term, I'm going to go to Sandy because this is a little bit of a mouthful.
It is.
We have a very interesting question, so I do want to kick it over to Sandy. Sandy, could you read the question that the students will be answering in the summer term?
Sure, I will. And it is a mouthful, yes. Describe a person who embodies the idea of excellence that you try to carry for yourself. This person might be a role model, a historical figure, or even a fictional hero. It should be someone who inspires you and that you admire, but it cannot be a family member.
So that is a very interesting way that you went about that. Sandy, it's a little bit difficult to talk about some of these things sometimes because often from a student's perspective, it might be difficult to kind of see who you kind of look up to as a role model in a lot of different cases. Do you have any kind of ideas of maybe if you were to answer that question, what you might say, just so we can kind of talk about that a little bit?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that your role models might change throughout your life, depending upon your age. Now, that being said, I'm a little older than a traditional student, so I could pick out a couple different sports figures that I admire. Now, the students won't know who they are, but I admire Washington Redskins' John Riggins. I admire a former baseball player by the name of Billy Buckner. I admire...
Unfortunately, just passed away recently.
Yeah, and I admire, even though a little skewed in his thinking maybe, Pete Rose. And I admire all of those people for the same reason. And the reason is that they give 110% no matter what they're working on. So they give it their all, and that's what I do on a daily basis. So I admire that in somebody, and they would probably be somebody that I would pick out.
I think that's very unique.
Yeah.
If I had to think about this, there are a lot of people I certainly can talk about. Obviously, I would want to talk about, off the top of my head, was a professor, and I've talked about this individual a number of times on this podcast. Basically, the gentleman that I credit for helping me turn my life around. Back when I was in college, I really struggled, as many students do,
right,
in their first couple of semesters. And it was one of my professors, Dr. James Laux, who helped not only inspire me to do better in class, but also to develop a pattern of study. I did okay in high school. I made the honor roll and really didn't have to try all that hard. Once I got to college, it was like, okay, this is not the same. So I struggled the first couple of semesters, and he really helped me understand a lot more about how to approach college and how to budget my time. So I was studying and doing well in my classes. And from the day that we had this conversation that I'll never forget, my GPA went from like a 2.5 to like a 3.5. So just, and of course he doesn't take the credit. He always says that I was the one that turned it around. But that's somebody that when I think back, it was such a selfless act. I mean, he had hundreds of students each and every semester, and he met with me every single week to make sure. And that's something that I try to embody myself. Right. So when I'm looking back on this, that's certainly a way that I might take a look at this.
Right. Well, so he lit the spark.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what it is. It's somebody that lit the spark that made you decide to, whether it's to go to college, to become involved in community programs, whatever it is that motivated you, whatever it is that set you on that path, whatever it is, whoever it is that lit the spark.
I love it. So, Tyler, I want to go to you for a minute because you've not only won the scholarship at the faculty colloquium, but you've also been and have done these scholarship applications. Can you give some tips to some students out there that maybe have never done this before, or students that maybe are new to the college that might be interested in trying to do this? Can you just give them some tips about how you went through the process?
Well, one of the first things that I would tell new students is to always be on the lookout for scholarship opportunities. You can talk to various different professors. You could talk to the people at the Education Foundation. I know I have gotten notifications through emails and different conversations with people. So just always be sure to keep an eye out for anything that becomes available. Also, the link that you pointed out at the beginning of the podcast, pretty much keep that handy because you're going to need it the entire time that you're here. So, and never be afraid to ask questions. Anything that you apply for, you may not always get every scholarship that you apply for, but it's certainly worth trying for to see what you can achieve.
Well, and one thing that's important to note, and Sandy, maybe you can update us on some of these figures, we give a lot of scholarship dollars away to those that apply. In January, Sandy, how many applicants did we have?
We had 151 applications that we received, and out of those 151, I think 28 were new students. So new students that just started that did not have the GPA, but we encourage those students to apply anyway. Once their GPA is marked, then we go back and review those scholarships to see if they're see if they're eligible to receive. So out of 151 applications that were received, we awarded 125 scholarships.
That's unreal.
Totaling $105,000. So, the odds are pretty good. I'm not going to say everybody gets one because they don't, but the odds are pretty good that you're going to get something, so you should apply. What will increase your odds is to make certain that you read your essay before you submit it. Make sure that somebody else reads your essay or at least critiques your punctuation and grammar before you submit it. And if you need additional help, go to the Learning Center.
I have a feeling, Sandy, that this time we might have some more because I have about 60 students and I'm requiring every single one of them to do it.
Perfect.
So, and I wish other professors would as well. I'm actually going to make this a grade from me to them. Obviously, whatever happens between myself and them does not preclude them from winning an award. But I really think, I guess what somewhat disappoints me is that we don't have more people. I mean, literally, why aren't every single person on this campus doing this? And that's something we don't have an answer to.
We don't. And we advertise. It's on Blackboard.
You do everything you can on your end.
I was going to say, it's on Blackboard. It's on emails. We have handouts that we have in financial aid and in the business office so that when somebody comes in with an issue, they're automatically handed this little piece of paper that says, if you're having some financial issues, please take the time to apply for this.
All we can do is just continue to try to promote it in any way we can, and I just hope that even if it's just because of myself, that these numbers go up because I just absolutely love nothing more than being in our scholarship selection committee meetings and having the opportunity because, I do and can say that the awards go from $500 to $2,000.
Right, they do.
And is the majority of the decisions do come from the scores that are received on. So I'm sure a lot of people are kind of question how we go about deciding. The bottom line is the better your essay, the better odds you have of receiving some kind of support.
Well, what happens is every application is reviewed by 5 different evaluators. Now, that's not the same 5 evaluators. They're randomly just tossed out to the people that have signed up. So each application is read and scored by 5 evaluators. Then they, of course, are ranked at the, from top to bottom. And then, as Professor Miller attested to, he's in the selection committee, and there are 10 people in the selection committee to determine who gets the scholarships. We look at things like GPA, we look at financial need, we look at behavior on campus, we look to see if there are any issues with regard to in the classroom. So we look at all of those things when we are selecting.
Also campus involvement as well
Right,
as a positive.
absolutely. Right.
If one particular student, if there's sort of a tiebreaker needed, we always take a look at who is more involved on campus.
Right.
That said, so for our online students, what we try to do is reach out to somebody who's had them in an online class and talk about their character in terms of that. So there are a lot of things that go in, but bottom line, Sandy, is it's really the scores that drive everything on these essays. And so of all of those other things, by far, the essay is the most important part.
It is the most important. And the funny thing is that what we've noticed over the years is that people who generally might have a very good GPA, and then all of a sudden their essay comes in not stellar. And we're like, well, this doesn't make sense. Well, because they're not taking the essay seriously. They're just going, well, okay, my GPA is this. Well, that's great. But the people that are reviewing the scholarship applications look at more than just your GPA. They look at the whole package. So you can't just put that much weight on your GPA and go, well, that'll carry me. It won't carry you. I can guarantee it. It will not carry you.
Well, we certainly encourage everybody to be a part of the Central Penn College Education Foundation Scholarship Essay. And that opened August 1st. It will be open through August 30th at foundation.centralpenn.edu. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email Sandy. I'll put your email along with this.
Okay.
Or you can work with the Learning Center as well that can help you. Online, on-ground, evening students, we can make appointments at the Learning Center for you at any time, so within reason, an agreed to time. So again, that would just really be my best advice to everybody is, maybe take some of Tyler's advice, but also make sure that you make an appointment with the Learning Center. This is literally, let's say if it takes you an hour to write this essay and you win even $500.
Right.
Sandy, I don't know about you, but $500 an hour.
I've never made $500 an hour.
I certainly have not.
No.
So, all right. So we're going to move along. We're going to bring MaryBeth into the fray at this point, and certainly we can talk to you too as well. One of the big things coming up on your yearly calendar is the Central Penn College Education Foundation Golf Tournament, which will take place on August the 16th. It'll be at Rich Valley Golf, and I'm already have paid my entry fee, and I am very much looking forward. It's starting to look more and more like this will be the only time that I even get out this year.
Well,
so hopefully you steer clear of me when I'm on the tee box.
Well, I just did a little review before I came down here. We are right now at 17 teams, which is very nice, but of course we have room for many more. I think the highest amount of teams that we've ever had since I've been here is 30. I'd like to see 30 again. That would be great. But, 20 to 24 teams, so we still have some space available. They can go on to the website at centralpenn.edu/golf open.
So we certainly encourage that, and that's there's some different prices. But honestly, this is one of the best golf tournaments that I've ever been to, not only just because of your smiling faces when I get there in the morning, just the meal that goes on, and at the end of the day, the support that we are giving back to our students is just really phenomenal. So if you're a faculty member, staff member, please consider doing this. And I believe in the past you've even allowed students to golf, right?
We have allowed some students to golf. It always helps if they know how to golf.
Sure.
But even if not, we do have sometimes that we have volunteer opportunities for the students to come out and help us out. So,
I love it.
So if we have any students that are able, they can certainly, give me a call, stop by the office, send me an email, and if we have a space for them, we'll be more than happy to have them come along.
Fantastic. Tyler, are you a golfer?
No, honestly, I have not done anything outside of mini golf. So I don't know how good
Not
I
even
would
the
be.
driving range?
No.
I played golf because it was something that my dad got me into. And I A few years ago, I decided that I really didn't enjoy golf anymore because I've been playing for 20 years and I just never, ever, ever get any better, ever. And it's obviously because I don't get out enough, right? And I know that, and I don't practice enough. But no matter what, I will be a part of this golf tournament as long as everybody knows ahead of time to steer clear of me whenever I'm on the team.
I always think it's funny because people come up to me and go, so Sandy, they have a question about golf. And I said, okay, listen, what you have to understand is that I have hosted 18 golf tournaments through the last 18 years. I do not golf at all. I tell people all the time I would be like Happy Gilmore on the golf course because I did play field hockey in school. So golfing is just not my thing. But it is the thing for a lot of people who enjoy it, and it is a great cause because, of course, we're doing nothing but raising scholarship dollars for our students at Central Penn. So why would you not want to do it, right?
I totally agree with that. All right, well, MaryBeth, there's a few other things that we have going on. So if you want to maybe go one by one on some of the things that you wanted to talk about, I might stop you and whenever I can add something to the conversation.
Well, sure. Thanks, Paul. First thing on our list is we are doing a cooking with Central Penn College class. This is a series of cooking classes that has been started late last year. So this will be the third class. It is free for any student to attend, although you must register, and space is very limited. How it works is you come, you make a meal, you eat your meal, and you get to take leftovers home. So it's a win-win all around for the students. This term, we are so fortunate to have your very own Professor Miller doing the cooking. He is going to be doing grilling techniques.
So I have to give all the credit in the world. I've never taken a cooking class. I did work in kitchens when I was in college. I actually worked in a kitchen for about 8 years. But it was all corporate. And if you've ever worked at a corporate restaurant, it's very cookie cutter. You have very, very little opportunity to improvise or to make it your own. And it was really, I got to tell this story, and I'm just going to make a quick aside here because I know you have a ton of events you want to talk about. When my wife and I first got together, we've only ever had one television in our house. So we have one TV. We've only ever had one TV and still only have one TV. And on the one TV, she likes what she likes. I like sports. She can watch football, but outside of football, she doesn't really watch a whole lot of other sports. And she watches her movies and things that I'm not necessarily interested in. So we had to figure something out because she can't stand to sit there and watch sports. I can't sit there and necessarily watch, The Blind Side for the 30th time. And that is a movie that she's literally watched 30 times. So what we decided was we both worked in restaurants, so we both enjoyed food. And so we started watching Food Network. Still to this day, watch Food Network. That is our go-to. We have a couple series now that we both enjoy, but most of the time when we're watching television together, we're watching Food Network. So love, love, love Food Network. So I actually learned a lot of these grilling techniques from a show called Good Eats with Alton Brown, which actually, by the way, is coming back now. They have a new season. So many of these techniques I'm going to be sharing. We will be cooking burgers and chicken, and I'm going to get some steaks as well. I'm going to show everybody some different types of marinades, some basic seasoning techniques, and I'm also going to show how to maintain your grill properly so you don't catch on fire and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be just very basic stuff. I do not consider myself a chef. I can cook at home, but a lot of this stuff's just going to be for people who don't grill a lot and maybe are looking to get into it. So it's a fun hobby.
And if anyone has questions, they could contact me, MaryBeth Fisher, or Dan Garizzi, and we'll be happy to help you and get you registered.
And I look forward to that. I know I have a couple of my Nightly News Media Club members coming, but there still are definitely several spots available, so please sign up now.
Then in September, our alumni will be coming to campus to assist the Career Services Department with the Professionalism 101, Skills to Succeed, and Advance in the Workplace. So we have several alumni coming to campus, and they will be coordinating the roundtable conversations.
Panel discussions.
Panel discussions. So we'll have more alumni on campus for that.
I'll have a small hand in that. I'm going to be introducing one of the guests that I'm helping to bring onto campus. But what I love about this, and Tyler, this might be something that from a student perspective you might be interested in doing as well. So there are breakout sessions, there's time to network, and this is also prior to the entrepreneurship series that the college has been doing over the past couple of months. So I think that this gives you an opportunity not only for networking, not only to learn some really important things as you go into the workplace, but also to stay for this entrepreneurship series. One final thing I want to mention there, MaryBeth. I had a class last term that Tyler can speak to about is called Projects in Corporate Communication. And I had Steve and Kristen come in and talk about professionalism. And one of the most eye-opening things from that session that I recall is the gap between students and where they think their professionalism lies and employers. So basically, students think that they have a much higher professionalism than employers do. Right. And that is something that I think is so important. Professionalism is something that, each of us probably have a different definition for professionalism. So it's kind of one of those terms that we're not really exactly sure what professionalism even means. Right. What did you take away from that experience last term, Tyler?
Well, I actually really enjoyed that class.
You don't enjoy all my classes?
Yeah, but that one especially.
That class really just stood out because, especially for me coming into my last year here at Central Penn and knowing that I have to go through the internship process, it just kind of really helped open my eyes to, that it means a lot to go through this process and to show people what you can do to get your name out there. And as we just kind of talked about, to show, I guess, how professional you can be. Showing up to jobs on time, doing what you're asked, going above and beyond, even doing more work. Right. So it really will help show, what you can do to help a future employee and why people should hire you.
I just have one final thought on that, Tyler. I met with CBS 21, a gentleman over there that Janet Bixler had connected me with, and we're trying to develop an internship program with them. You know what the number one thing he said was? He says, you know what? In a lot of cases, I don't really even care what skills the students have. I want them to be professional, I want them to be here on time, right. And I want them to show enthusiasm.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
He said, look, anything else, we can train you. We can show you how to do what we need you to do. If you come in here with that positive attitude and at least some general professionalism skills, we'll make it work.
Right.
And that really opened my eyes. I couldn't believe it.
It's so important to be a team player and to be positive.
Yeah.
I know sometimes it's tricky, but
it's hard.
It's
hard.
Yeah. It is. But what I like about what we're doing more and more, I see it more and more in the last probably year, is that different departments on campus are really working together to build our students up and prepare them for the next step in their careers. And to me, I think that's important. Like I said, with the alumni, we have career services. We've worked on some things where I've had community relations. Curtis Voelker's worked on some things with us. And it's just, I think if we partner together and we all know that we're on the same page, and the same page is preparing our students for success, we just need the students to understand that that's what we're trying to do, is we are trying to build you for success. Your success is our success.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And you know what, too? We're getting to the point where we have so many internships, we just need the students that are ready to fill them.
Absolutely. I mean, and that is, when you talk about professionalism, I mean, that's one of the things that when a student comes in and they're not prepared and they're not on time, it doesn't matter if they have a GPA of 4.0. They're not the person for the job, because obviously they think it's not important enough to be there on time. Those are the kind of things that, it's the soft skills that we have to really work on. It's those interpersonal skills that we have to show that we have. Don't walk in with your telephone in your hand, texting and saying, oh, just a minute, please, I have to take this call.
Someone did that to you?
I've had people, yes.
I can't even imagine trying to do that in front of you.
It was, people come in and they'll say to me, I have a question for you, and then, oh, I'm sorry, I have to take this phone call. Oh, no.
Or they don't show up when they say they will.
Right.
That's a whole separate issue.
Right.
Yes.
MaryBeth, what else do you have?
The alumni, they're very active this year. So for all you students out there, hang in there, because you will soon be an alumni too. So these are some things you would have to look forward to. We do a New York City on your own trip annually. This year it will be on September 28th. Then, of course, there's homecoming on campus. The alumni have a homecoming tent in conjunction with the Fall Harvest Festival on October 19th. And finally, in December, we are doing Santa. We're having Santa come, and we'll have cookies and milk and pictures with Santa. So any alumni and their families can bring the kids.
We're working on another joint project with alumni, the Education Foundation, and the theater to do a murder mystery.
Yes, I've heard about
Yes.
that.
Janet Bixler.
I'm going to have you back on for that, because when I saw that was we've done murder mystery before, and they were very well done, and I totally believe that Janet's going to do a fantastic job, especially if she's partnering up with the Education Foundation.
We're trying to help.
Let's just put that little teaser out there, and then we'll have you back down for that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
That's right.
So
also this year, we started off the year with, we did a Senators baseball game. We did hockey at the Hershey Bears, and we did kayaking and canoeing down the Susquehanna River.
Fantastic.
So we've been busy.
I love how much you get, how many opportunities you give for our alumni. All right, everybody, I will add a list of all of those events along with this podcast that will show you details and where you can go to sign up or register or inquire about more information. But the main date that I want to remind everyone about once again is for the Central Penn College Education Foundation Scholarship Essay. Opened August 1st and will be open through August 30th. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always reach out to Sandy. And also, any last-minute people who want to sign up for the Central Penn College Education Foundation Golf Tournament on August 16th. Again, that link will be along with the podcast. All right. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Honestly, I circle this date on my calendar when I get to have the both of you on.
It sure is fun. We love it.
And we really appreciate you not only taking your time out for being here, but everything you do for our students. It's so much appreciated, Sandy and MaryBeth.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
We love doing it.
And we're also going to sign off here for Tyler Coleman. Tyler, I'm so glad that you got to join us here on the podcast today. I certainly hope to have you down again soon. And there's just a slight rumor that you might be starting your own podcast here soon as well. So stay tuned for that. So Tyler, again, thank you for being a part of the podcast today and the Nightly News.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure here talking with you guys.
Not a problem at all. All right, everybody. So for Tyler Coleman, for Sandy Box, and for MaryBeth Fisher, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we will catch you next time on the Nightly News Podcast.
Hi, everyone. This is Yuli. Welcome to the Nightly News Podcasting, and thank you for listening.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and we are inching ever so closely to episode number 100 of the podcast. Today, we are on episode number 97, and we are so fortunate today to be joined by Community Relations Coordinator and veteran of the podcast, Curtis Voelker. Curtis, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you, Curtis, and we look forward to talking about some amazing initiatives that you have going on here out of your office. Also being joined by Leslie Heimball, one of the all-stars of the Nightly News, and is also our CPC Film Series correspondent, doing amazing work with the CPC Film Series. Leslie, you just put out a piece about the most recent film series with Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. What an amazing time.
Yes, it is. It's awesome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, but of course, you're always welcome here on the podcast. Well, Curtis, a lot's been going on since the last time we've had you down here. Just in some of our conversations that we had prior to the podcast, this is sort of a new chapter for you, because even though you've been in this position for about a year now, this is your only position. So you'd mentioned that you were actually, over the last year, doing both your previous role, which was outreach with high schools in the area and doing some recruiting there, and your community relations position. So what, maybe now that you have less of on the admissions end, what are some of the new duties that you're going to have in your community relations position?
Yeah, so for about the past 5.5 years, I've been the high school outreach coordinator, presenting in the different local area high schools and a couple of other different states. And we've talked about that in the podcast a couple of times. And this past year, I just became the community relations coordinator, but there was a transition period, as you mentioned, where I was doing both roles for over a year. And now, as you mentioned, I'm the full-time community relations coordinator, not necessarily going to the high schools anymore. We now have Liz Wheeler, who's our new high school outreach coordinator. She's going to do an awesome job. So what exactly does this position entail? Well, It really comes down to partnering with businesses and organizations within our local community, and specifically partnerships with organizations that provide employee tuition reimbursement. And I'll get into the details a little bit later. But this past year has been simply amazing in terms of getting out into the community, meeting those that know and love and support our college, and supporting them in a little bit of a different way.
I love it. So over the course of the last year, you have cultivated, for lack of a better term, about 30 different partnerships. Some of the members include PSCCU, Members First, Mid-Penn Bank, Susquehanna Valley Credit Union, Messiah Lifeways, Sheets, and a list of others. And please don't be offended if I didn't list, because if I had to list all 30, it might take a little while. It's amazing. If you follow Central Penn social media, you see Curtis on almost a daily basis working out in the community. How do you even go about trying to find some of these partners in our community?
Well, thank you very much for that, Paul. I do want to give some backstory or history on what this corporate partnership program has looked like in the past and where it is now. So probably around 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit less, we had a similar program partnering with businesses and organizations. It went dormant for a while. This past year, we brought it back. So to explain what this partnership program is, if an organization provides tuition reimbursement to their employees and they decide to partner with Central Penn, if that employee decides to study with Central Penn, they would be eligible for a $1,000 scholarship on top of any other reimbursement that they get. So, I mean, that's a huge incentive to choose or check out Central Penn for your next step in your educational journey. In terms of identifying partnerships, on that list of 30, some of those were kind of refreshed and revitalized from the former program that we have, but certainly a lot of them are a little bit more brand new. So it might be coming from connecting with someone at a networking mixer hosted by the West Shore Chamber of Commerce. It might come from simply a connection that shared with me or introduced me to someone new that they thought I might benefit from meeting. Oddly enough, one of the ways that worked really well is simply filling out an online contact form, because I may not necessarily know the direct person to talk to with an organization, but I do know that that organization would be a great fit for our partnership program because they provide that reimbursement. So I simply fill out the contact form, and a lot of times within the same day, they look at what we have to offer, say, this sounds like an awesome idea. We'd love to chat further. So it's not all easy. It does take some time. Some of these partnerships have taken almost the full year to form. Some have taken a couple hours. So it really just depends on the organization, how they do things, and what they're looking for. But it certainly has been a blast.
Two quick things I want to point out. Number one, that $1,000 is... number one, it's a lot of money in itself. But number two, something that I really have to take some time and discuss in my classes is if you're taking financial aid, it is not $1,000. It might be $1,500. It might be $2,000, depending on the interest that accumulates and a lot of other factors. So, that $1,000 is good in itself. But if you're taking student loans and other financial aid options, there are interest in that. And so not only do you not have to pay back the scholarship, you also don't have to pay back the interest because you never took out that money in the first place.
Exactly. That's a great point. And to kind of describe the scholarship a little bit more, it is designed as a way to help that student through their first year, because that $1,000 is actually dispersed over your first 3 terms of study. So it's really designed to help carry that student through.
Absolutely. I've been the beneficiary of some of these scholarships myself, and the amount that I'm responsible for, which is what I'm most concerned about right this minute, is drops dramatically when somebody else is helping me pay those bills. So yeah, I really, really have appreciated being the benefactor of some of these things.
Well, Curtis, we talked about some of the corporate partners you have. In our pre-show meeting, there was one particular organization that really stood out in our conversation. That was the Susquehanna Valley Credit Union. They are doing a special program through the next couple of months that kind of mimics what we're doing here with our Genes for Scholarships campaign. Can you chat a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've been so excited and grateful for the enthusiasm that Susquehanna Valley Federal Credit Union has given toward our partnership and the college overall. They are a smaller organization, so they haven't actually sent a student to Central Penn through the corporate partnership, but they still want to partner organizationally overall. So we've actually had a billboard this past month that was up to promote our partnership in education between them and us. And the next thing I'm excited for as a trustee for the Education Foundation is that starting in August through October, they will actually be matching or participating in our Jeans for Scholarship program. So those that are listening, we have a Jeans for Scholarships program, which is a dress down day where faculty and staff can pay a donation to wear jeans on Wednesdays. Well, turns out Susquehanna Valley Credit Union does a similar thing, and each quarter they choose a charity or organization to donate money to. So when I heard them kind of think about that and request that, that was just so awesome to hear that there are other organizations in our community that value education and value our students just as much as we do. So Mary Kate Greenfield, their marketing director, is just a huge ball of energy, and it's just so fantastic to work with them and partner with them to kind of benefit our students.
I work at Perry County Literacy Council, and excuse me, we have a couple of banks that'll do that same thing for us, and it's really fantastic to have $300 come in that you weren't expecting. It's a real gift.
Yeah, every little bit helps, and I got to speak to that point. You know, you mentioned $300, and they mentioned, Susquehanna Valley mentioned, it might only be $150. Well, every little bit helps. Every dollar helps to creating that path for our students in their education. So it's not necessarily about the amount. It's just the fact that they're willing to go out of their way to help our students.
Well, and just a sort of a follow-up, obviously Sandy and MaryBeth from the Education Foundation on earlier in today's podcast. So we talked about the Education Foundation Scholarship application that's running throughout the entire month of August 1st through August 31st. I guess I'd like to just get a little bit more of a perspective from both of you. Curtis, you've obviously walked across the stage here 2 different occasions and have also are very closely affiliated with the Education Foundation. Also, Leslie has been very active in the applications as well. Can you tell us what the Education Foundation meant to you while you were here as an undergrad student and maybe now that you've moved into a different capacity?
I could tell you that as the first person in my family to go to college, paying for college was a huge thing that was on my mind. And had it not been for the scholarships through the Education Foundation, I don't know what I would have done to advance my education. So that's why I was super excited to give back and serve as a trustee. I actually became a trustee for the foundation back in 2011. I was the first student appointed to the board of trustees.
Wow.
So I'm pretty proud of that moment because that was one of my first major moments of taking what I had learned in the past and then stepping up to give back to help others move forward. So I've been pretty thankful and blessed to help serve and work with the foundation in that capacity.
I love what you said about giving back because that's so meaningful. If you can do it, you should do it. But I have, like I said before, been the beneficiary of a few gifts from a few scholarships. And I want to say to my fellow students that are listening that the process is so easy to apply for a scholarship. It really takes, you should put some thought into it, but it doesn't take a lot. And especially if you're passionate about what you're doing, your passion will come through and it'll convince people that you deserve their support. And like I said, I've been fortunate enough to actually have someone from the office, Sandy Box, actually came and found me and suggested a scholarship that she knew of that a professor of mine had recommended me for. And I just couldn't.
Professor of yours?
Yes, Professor Miller. But I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have someone looking out for my best interest in that way. It was a very simple process, and again, it made me feel the love, and I needed that at the time, and it also was really helping my bottom line.
I think the biggest issue in my mind is the fact that there's just not enough students that are applying for this. And it's funny because I guess in a way, when we heard this from Sandy earlier, she is extremely happy because over the last few terms she's seen growth, more people. I guess I just wonder why more people don't do this. So last term it was about 20% of our students. I can't imagine 80% of our students wouldn't have a need for scholarships. And to be honest, I've never heard of an easier way to apply for a scholarship here. And I just wish more students would take advantage by going to foundation.centralpenn.edu during the month of August and making sure to get their application in. Leslie, on the bright side for you, I'm making it an assignment in class, so you're kind of required to do it.
It's a totally creative way of getting people to be aware, as you've done throughout my time here. I'm in my 5th semester. And Professor Miller has made several things, awareness things around the campus part of our assignments, so that we do indeed take the time to look into what the millions of opportunities really that are around here for students. And the amount of time it takes you to write that essay, number one, we're all trying to be better writers, so it's a fantastic opportunity to get your writing read. It's a fantastic opportunity to take advantage of the help that is on campus to be able to get some help reading those, proofreading them, making sure they make sense. And you will not be sorry. No one will ever say, boy, that was a waste of time. It's a good experience the whole way around.
Yeah, I'm really glad, Leslie, that you mentioned the writing aspect. I think a lot of students out there may sit there and say, oh, I'm not the strongest writer. I'm not even going to give it a shot. Take that opportunity. I've shared with high school students looking for scholarships overall. Take that opportunity, write that one-page essay. It might take 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it might be, but get your name out there.
Yes.
You might turn out that you're the only applicant for the scholarship. Well, I think we know who's going to win then.
Yes.
You never know unless you take that chance.
And I would venture a guess that even if your writing's not perfect, your passion for what you need is going to come through, and that's going to sway hearts too. And people are going to see that you mean it and that you aim to get better, so you need to come to school here for help.
And the other thing I want to mention, that second part, is I want people to understand there's no shame or negative aspect to requesting financial assistance or applying for a scholarship. You may really need that scholarship money to advance your education and continue your education. There is nothing wrong with that at all. The scholarship process, the foundation, is nothing but a positive tool and asset for you as a Central Penn student. So please, if you're listening, if you've ever had the thought, oh my gosh, I don't want people to know that I'm hurting financially and I really need this scholarship, I'm not going to apply. Don't think like that. This is a positive resource and a positive tool. Reach out, let us know. We're happy to see how we can help you.
And it's also a private thing, too. It's not like, I mean, I'm sure unless you wanted it to be known, outside of the people on the selection committee, and it stays in that room, no one else knows. So it's a private thing. But frankly, speaking from somebody who's going back to school in T-minus about 40 days, I just looked at my bill yesterday and it blew my mind. I would be happy to have some assistance, but frankly, unless you've got money growing on trees, I don't know anybody who doesn't need some assistance. But I did want to point out, in terms of, I'm just giving you a little look behind the curtain here, at these meetings, it's not just based on that essay. It's based on the totality of the student. It's based on their involvement on campus for those who are on campus, or the interactions that we've had with people, online students, or their GPA. I mean, it's not just, hey, this person got a 9.0, they're a great writer, we're going to give them $20,000. That's not how it works. It's the totality of the student as a whole. So even those of you that might identify that, hey, writing not necessarily my strongest suit, number one, we do have the Learning Center. They're ready and willing to help, even in a virtual sense. On-ground, evening, online, all can be assisted by the Learning Center. But again, it's not just necessarily about the X's and O's of your writing ability. It's about the totality of the student.
As soon as you break in and do that, you're going to find that they're very flexible too in how they allow you to use the money. So if you're desperate need, let's say you have a lot of your education needs met, but you still need to buy books, you can spend that money on books. It's extremely flexible and it's all yours.
Right.
They might suggest that you spread it out over semesters, but I've had times when I really needed it now and they've worked with me to give it to me. So
Right.
It's really great.
Moving along, something else that you're involved with in addition to your wonderful corporate community relations coordinator position, you recently welcomed and have stepped into more of a leadership role with the West Shore Young Professionals. I would love to hear a little bit more about your experiences with the organization and the recent event you had on campus.
Yes, so I've been a West Shore Young Professional member for about a year, and starting in July, I just became a board member. And I'm excited to jump into their marketing committee to help them promote and advertise all the great things that they're doing for professionals in the area. So this past week, we actually had a summer social right here on campus at Central Penn in the Student Amphitheater Fellowship area. Christie's Whistle Stop thankfully came out and brought their ice cream truck. Shout out to Christie's. So we had a nice cooling off type of summer event. We had cornhole out there, we had pizza, we had music, just a nice little relaxing event on campus. The side note to that is hearing Dr. Fedrizzi share that her vision for Central Penn is in part to become a place-based institution. Well, I'm taking place-based in a literal sense in terms of when people think about a place they want to go, a place they want to meet, somewhere to have a networking group, what better place than our centrally located campus right here in Summerdale? We have a beautiful campus, and I don't think enough people realize that. There is so much more to see than simply the ATEC building when you drive down Valley Road or when you drive down College Hill Road. And the one factor that really kicked this into high gear for me for the rest of the year as a personal mission to get more people on our beautiful campus is as I was wrapping up my high school presentation role in the classroom at East Penn High School, literally 5 minutes right down the road, right here in the backyard, a student asked me, "Hey, is there more to campus that we're not seeing?" I said, "Well, yeah. Did you know about our 200-seat theater?" "Oh my gosh, you have a theater?" "Yeah, did you know in that theater that we do free community movie nights?" "What?" "Yeah, you guys can come watch a movie on a college campus right here in your backyard." "Did you know about our pool?" "Oh, you have a swim team?" "No, we don't have a swim team, but we have an outdoor pool."
It's beautiful.
"Oh my gosh, you don't see that at other colleges." No, you don't. You can lay right out on the deck on your laptop and work on your papers and projects. "Oh, that's so great." "Well, hey, did you see our batting cage on campus?" "What are you talking about? You have a batting cage?" "Well, yeah, we have athletic programs. We have a baseball team, we have a basketball team." So their eyes widened up, the eyebrows were raised, and I think people just kind of forget about right here in your backyard, especially right now in high school age. You're looking to get that college experience, and a lot of people think that's 5, 10, 15 hours away, a different state, but then right here in your backyard are some awesome resources. So I'm taking this literally in terms of the place-based. So whether it's a student, whether it's a community member, organization, I encourage them and try to get them to campus to take a tour of our beautiful campus because it's always sunny in Summerdale. Even when it's cloudy, the sun's still there. You just got to look right through the clouds.
And if I could just jump in here, I am an older student. I hadn't been in college for...
How do you consider 30 years old older?
I'm 55, so I'm much older than that. But I will say that when I first accepted the invitation to come to Central Penn, people would say, "Oh, where are you going?" And I say, "Oh, just Central Penn." It's not just Central Penn. It's a spectacular place. I really mean it when I say that the faculty and the staff are world class. People have gone after me to help me with things. They have gone out of their way to make me feel like I could be a success at this. And they have encouraged a writer out of me. I used to think I was only a verbal communicator, and now I think actually my writing is my number one way of communicating. And I've been made to feel like I can do this, and I just couldn't be happier. I'm the number one fan of this place.
And I'm so glad you mentioned, I'm just going to Central Penn.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it comes in entail with or in partnership with kind of the location right in your backyard.
Sure.
And you take for granted what's right here. So I'm trying to personally combat that. And as Professor Miller mentioned, you see me on social media all the time. I'm trying to use social media as a tool to help change that perception as we're not just Central Penn. We're Central Penn.
Yeah.
Like, you need to check this out. You need to come here and see what we're all about. It's been joked about, you cut me open, I'll bleed maroon and orange. And I'm really just trying to push that every day.
Yes.
To check out what we're doing. We have awesome students, awesome faculty and staff that really, truly care about what we're doing. And I really support that moniker of the Central Penn family because that's something that really changed my life as a high school student now, as a graduate, and now giving back to the other. So I'm so glad you were able to share, your mindset before you started.
Yes.
And how it's changed once you got here to campus.
Curtis, we need to bottle the passion that you have because it would be worth
Absolutely.
millions.
Yes.
One final thing I wanted to mention while we still have a chance. You were a major part of a recent really, really important event here on campus, something you've done in the past. This time you worked with Dan Garissi, who has also been on the podcast in recent months, the Men's Leadership Retreat. I would love to hear a lot more about this because the Women's Leadership Retreat we hear and have heard quite a bit about in the past. I would love to hear a little bit more about what you gentlemen did and maybe what some of the messages were you shared.
Yeah, and huge shout out to the Women's Retreat. I mean, they've been going at it for a while now. They're so much more developed and far along than where we are with the Men's Leadership Retreat, but we're going to get there with some time, I believe. So Dan and I worked with 7 male students over this past weekend, and we stayed at a place called Kent Land, and that's through a local Mechanicsburg church. They have a retreat area that we were able to rent out, and it was about a day and a half retreat. We like to keep the groups small to really help with that collaboration and teamwork and kind of that personal touch there. I think it went really well. That first evening, the students really started to open up with their personal stories, why they chose Central Penn, what they're looking to get out of this experience, and where they hope to go in the future. So some things we have built in, the big theme that I had for this retreat was leaving your legacy. The experiences you have on campus, once you graduate, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want to give back? How do you plan to do that? It's one thing to have a legacy in mind or a notion of how you want to be remembered, but let's take a look at the action that you need to do, or things you need to give, or things you need to be in order to create that perception for yourself. You can't just say, I want to be remembered for this, and then knock it off the couch. You have to get out there and take action. So we had a lot of good discussion with that. We had some activities for time management. We had a whole time management challenge. It was on the Central Penn Instagram story. We did crown some champions. We had a friendly pickup basketball game. I really think the students liked that because Dan and I actually got out there. I can't shoot.
You didn't hurt yourself, did you?
I can't shoot, but I can set some screens and get some rebounds. So that was a lot of fun. We had the guys do a small cooking session, so they were in charge of making their own dinner, making their own lunch, and we also capped off the evening with some s'mores and a nice bonfire as a chance for them to really bond. I think one of the main reasons, though, they did sign up was they heard paintball. I mean, that was a lot of fun. That was my first time. We did have some actually experienced paintball students come with us, so that was pretty cool. But that was kind of a cool way to cap off the entire event and really see how they started to use their leadership skills, their teamwork, their communication as they're trying to dodge all these paintballs whizzing around their head. Also on the second day, Tom Palmieri came to speak with the students about the different personality perceptions and projections, how they might perceive themselves and how they might project that to others, which really flowed nicely with our theme. And Dan led a section on, he led the section on the time management, and the students found, wow, out of an entire week, I might only have a full day full of free time. So we talked about that. I said, if you're sitting on the couch or playing video games, chances are there's something you're missing or not getting done. And they're starting to realize that as they're coming into their own in the college level. So it was a fast and furious day and a half, and I loved every second of it.
Well, Curtis, thank you so much for being here. Just a couple of things that I did want to touch on with you. Number one, prior to, the day after this podcast is released, we will have a Donuts and Decisions Day. We're not necessarily promoting it, although if you're hearing this the day it comes out, please consider coming down. Just tell us briefly about what this is all about.
So Donuts and Decisions is a small summer open house type of event we're doing, just a way to engage potential students over the summer. And the reason why Professor Miller is bringing this up is if it's still on the website when this podcast is released, you might see on the front page of the website myself dressed in a suit and an inflatable donut in our Central Penn pool. And the quick backstory history of this is a huge mentor, father figure for me, someone who really helped recruit me to the college. One of our former presidents, Todd Milano, his big time tradition was each year he would jump into the pool in a full suit. Kind of honoring him and his tradition, I decided to carry on the tradition with a little bit of a different twist. I had some swim shorts on instead of suit pants, but I was in there in a coat, shirt, and tie. So that was a lot of fun personally for me, but also organizationally to help promote the event.
I love it. Well, again, please, if you are listening to this day it comes out, please consider coming down. One last question I had. We talked a lot about the corporate partnerships. What if there's anybody out there that's interested in becoming a corporate partner with Central Penn College?
Yes, by all means, please feel free to reach out to me, Curtis Voelker at centralpenn.edu, or give me a call, 717-728-2336. You're welcome to stop in, reach out to our admissions department. Either way, they'll connect with me, and I'll be more than happy to chat with you.
Fantastic. Curtis, thank you very much for everything you do. You are... I wish, every day I wake up, the first thing that runs through my mind is I wish I had your enthusiasm and passion, because I feel I have a lot, but you put me to shame, I got to tell you. But I just appreciate everything that you're doing. I don't know how you sleep, but hopefully you do get a good amount of rest. But everything you do for this college is just I don't know if we would be where we are as an institution at this point if it's not for you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Greatly appreciate that.
Of course, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And Leslie, thank you so very much for being on the show. Obviously, you have been on the show previously in part of some classwork, but this is really your first opportunity to come down and be on the Nightly News podcast. So, Leslie, we not only thank you for being here today, but for your contributions to the club.
I love it. And I must say, Professor Miller, I don't know when you sleep because I haven't had one professor that's been Johnny on the spot like you. You respond immediately and you're a fantastic mentor. So thank you too.
That's touching, and I appreciate that very much. I mean, that's part of why I do this job. So thank you, guys. All right, well, that's it for another episode of the Nightly News Podcast. Before we get out of here, please remember to make sure you sign up for the Education Foundation Scholarship application at foundation.centralpenn.edu. And I will be looking forward to hopefully being a part of awarding you some money. So, all right, so for Community Relations Coordinator Curtis Voelker and for Nightly News reporter Leslie Heimball, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we'll see you again next time.